ho, ho.
Life is a disease. A millennium ago, a supreme necromancer was on the verge of conquering the world. But you know what they say about best laid plans. Inevitably, heroes shall emerge. So, I was made dead again. But what does death really mean for somebody who has mastered it? Boredom. An eternity to ponder my errors and how close I came to victory. I am a mortal, but when this world ends, even I will know oblivion. And so, I ask myself, will I be given another chance to rise before it happens? Another chance to fulfill my ambition? It seems that fate has smiled after all.
Eratus, Lord of the Dead. This is a work in progress game that I found on Good Old Games, and hopefully it will load in short course because I've kind of started the commentary, so I kind of need to start the game, please. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Please press. Thank you. Start game. I am Eratus, and I will be the one. So I've already beaten it on... I did the tutorial and that led you to do the game on Cakewalk. So what we're going to do is more pain. For this is greater challenge. I might as well have a go and try and explain what this game is. Apart from the obvious title, Eratus, Lord of the Dead. It's a really cool game. I've discovered it. Sometimes I'm concerned by my willful need to not do things the appropriate way because they kind of just went, they emailed me, Good Old Games emailed me and went, hey, do you want a slightly bigger discount than the discount we're giving everybody else? Do you? And I went, I don't know what the game is. What's the game? Do I? Yes, I do. So it was a bit of an impulse. But luckily for me, it was pretty good impulse, because it turns out this is a really kind of cool game that I've actually really rather enjoyed. So here we are, me in the middle, that is I, Eratus. It's got a nice sense of humour, this game, as well. And what we can do is we can enhance my talents. I've got 4 talents available. I have the alchemy, I have the magic, I have the ire, and I have destruction. So destruction is fairly self-explanatory. It allows you to destroy enemies with magical spells. Ire, I believe, allows you to pretty much sort of improve your minions in some way. I don't know. Some of them, I think, have negatives on your minions as well, but then again, I'm not 100% convinced of it. I must admit, that's the one I was aiming for previously, but it was unnecessary. In this slightly higher difficulty, being able to recover to full vigour might be useful, because I did lose, even on the Cakewalk one, there was a couple of occasions where the enemies got the better of me and I lost some units. Then you've got magic, which kind of just affects on both enemies and minions that are slightly magical, I suppose. I don't know. And then alchemy is based on sort of improving bits and bobs, replace parts. That's quite useful later on, so I could get that now, I suppose. Amateur surgeon, that's going to be even more useful, I think. Yes, I think amateur surgeon, because it allows me to get more parts each time. So we're going to start with the alchemy amateur surgeon as my talent. And now let's just get straight to the dungeon, I think. Let's have a go. Have a go if you think you're hard enough. The kingdom had need of the vast riches buried underneath the castle. Great veins of iron that promised to fuel conquest after conquest, along with the ancient artifacts from a long-forgotten age. The dwarves were eager to offer their services in this project, bringing their untested mining equipment and experimental concoctions for the promise of wealth. They only needed bodies that could obey, and that the humans could provide. I think that's how you should inflect there. Don't know. With dungeons filled to the brim with both criminals and rebels, there was no shortage of slaves to work these mines. Drugs were used to keep them docile as they dug ever deeper, year after year, unaware of the mortal danger that awaited them below. And that immortal danger is me, Eratus. So you start here at your tomb, where they've been digging you up like the fucking morons they are. You then can explore all of this map. Lovely, lovely mappy goodness. All the way. And your goal is to get to here, which is the boss, and here, which is the exit. You then rise through the floors. So we start at the mines, then you go to the dwarf tunnels, then you go to the mercenary barracks, then you go to the available after release, and then you go to the ancient coffin. No, that's getting confused, because that's another available after release. As specified, this has not been released yet. It was one of those ones where I took a punt and was not disappointed. So we start with a basic battle. Off we pop, and the battle will probably look fairly similar to something else. Oh my. Oh, doesn't it just look like something a little else that I also play and rather enjoy? That's right, it's quite similar to The Darkest Dungeon, and that makes for a very pleasant game. But there's some key differences and some key interesting things. Firstly, I'm evil. That's fun. And secondly, your enemies, so it's kind of inverted Darkest Dungeon for this bit, your enemies have a sanity meter, which I can chip away at. I can remove their sanity and cause them to suffer the insanities. So that's hilarious fun. I absolutely adore that. So what we got? Show them their place. Smite. Oh, I can still use Smite. That's always quite good. No, okay, so this is not the world's greatest starting team. The Dark Knight is really good and works well at the front there. The Bride of Eratus, very good, works exceptionally well at the back there. But these two kind of work well in both these positions. Well, I think the Skeleton works a bit better second place, because it opens up a lot more of his manoeuvres. Oh, Shield Banger. For a moment, thought it said Shield Bugger. But Unassuming Strike and Astounding Fortitude are both sort of second place. But the Zombie also works better in the second place slot. But as I can use Smite, we might as well use it. They've got no real significant defence, so just double tap the Smite. And then the Bride of Eratus can buff herself with Think of Him. I find it's usually worthwhile doing that, because then it's a buff that lasts the entire battle. It's infinite buff, and so it's phenomenally good. Now, Hollow Stare would allow me to chip away at their stress levels. Dark Tithe would allow me to remove debuffs from the knight. He's not got any debuffs, so not a problem. Futile Hopes. Oh yes, that's a stance. Now, stances, what they do is, like for this one, each time an enemy receives a buff, the Dark Knight deals 70% damage. So what he does is he engages in the stance. When the sort of variable is fulfilled, he will then go, stress you. And then if they put another buff on someone, stress you. It lasts until his next turn, and he will just keep on futile hoping them in order to kill them. But ultimately, Heartless Slash is his basic, I twat you in the face and therefore try and kill you. The Zombie, this is a zombie for those, it says it there, Zombie. I might try and rename him, and I've got a name in mind, but we'll not discuss that just yet. So he's got a volley, which is a magical attack. There are physical and magical attacks. Both are affected by different bits and pieces here that, you've got shields here, this side. They block physical attacks. Runic shields block magical attacks, but magical attacks will still do damage to the health bar rather than stress damage. Buckshot is quite good because it fires at everything, but not necessarily. Ignition sets people on fire. It does damage over time. It's quite good. Cannonball's not terrible. More Powder is a buff that allows him to get extra damage, and you can stack it and stack it and stack it. His stance is Bombardment, which is quite good, but his Bombardment stance you have to be in the third position, whereas everything else has to be in the second position, which is why he's a bit of a troublesome one, and I don't remember using that many zombies. They're not bad, because, ultimately, he shoots them with a fucking handgun. It's pretty good. It's nothing to sniff at. but it's also kind of like, okay, what's this stance? Oh, that's not good. I don't think I've got I haven't got the fancy warning shot that would allow me to potentially stop that. Do I have any real options? I could fire up the ultimate. So each character has 5 maneuvers available. Well, okay, some have 4, and then the last 2 are ultimates, whereas this character is 5 and an ultimate at the end. The ultimates use this wrath meter, which is the flaming meter there. I can use the magic pool. You saw, as I discussed, destruction magic. I can use the magic pool to use either this sort of move left, uses a little tiny bit of mana, or later on I will probably fill some of those slots with magic that I can use that's going to directly affect the battle in a more distinct fashion. I think what we will do is use the Rose for a Lady, which I think is fairly guaranteed crit.
As worthless as you were in life, you will be worth something in
He's got a very good voice. Very enjoyable listening to that fella. He's brilliant at the Errata's voice. It's also got a bit of a sense of humour to it, I think. There's some bits that are a bit sort of like, well, that's peculiar, but entertaining at its peculiarity. What we got next? So, not a lot of point in using that. I'll tell you what might be worthwhile. Igniting him for now. I mean, missing is always an option. Missing is always an option. Overwatch. Oh, yes. He's not likely to move, so Overwatch is fairly useless, but you can get characters that will move people. So that can be quite useful if you're going to be doing that. But ultimately, she's an archer. She will just keep chest piercing and damaging nicely. Oh, you little turd. Well, I suppose the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight can finish this. Awesome.
If this keeps up, I'll be done purging the world ahead of
See what I mean about a little bit of sense of humour. So because I've beaten them, I get parts. I get Architect's Souls, Skull, Bones, Armour, and Weapons. And I will try and show you precisely what those do in the not too distant. And by not too distant, I mean almost immediately. What we're going to do is you get alchemy available. And what you can do with alchemy is you can transmutate things, you can distill things, and you can extract things. Now, I've got to say, I didn't use much transmutation, and I didn't use much extraction. I primarily use distillation, because what you can do is you can fill it up, and you get better bits. So I'm filling it up with armour. It does... One thing they could do with improving is this system, but then, I don't know, maybe you're not supposed to do it the way I'm doing it. But I like to just fill them up as much as possible and just keep tapping until you get the best possible items available, which improves your creature's stats. And I will explain how you get creatures in a moment or two. Promise. I'm not going to leave you hanging with details. I will try and provide as much as is possible in what should be a shortish... Fuck's sake, how many of these you've done? And have they been below an hour? No. Are you going to try and break that record? Yes. I'm going to try and do only a little bit. So, in order to get minions, you need these sort of after-battle items, the armours, the dust.
Anybody? No? High and fat, low and fat. Dust.
The blood, the bones, the ectoplasm, weapons, skulls, rags, hearts, flesh. So, you can build a skeleton. And we saw the skeleton. A fairly unimpressive warrior whose one standout characteristic is their utter mediocrity, while they often make up the backbone, pun intended, of most undead armies. Skeletons are so boring that they are never really acknowledged by their creators or their enemies. Zombies! We have also seen zombies. Before Eratus came along, zombies were considered little more than fodder troop by the other necromancers. It took a true visionary to realise that a mindless mass of undead muscle can be used for more than simply bashing the heads of mortals. With a bit of technological assistance, these rotting hulks even, were turned into mobile artillery, capable of carrying and shooting cannons that would normally need several humans to operate. And then we have the Bride of Eratus, a design fashioned by the arch-necromancer himself. The bride uses only the best part to raise a and the best part, yeah, I suppose the heart maybe is meant to be the best part. I don't know. The bride uses only the best part to raise a deadly archer with an unhealthy love for her creator. Sad love is then channeled into a burning desire to shoot out the eyes of anything that might try to get close to the one she worships. And then the Dark Knight, a manifestation of living void contained in a vessel of knightly armour. These necromantic soldiers are often seen leading the armies of undead against the civilizations of the mortals. Where they learn the skills to do battle and wage war is unknown, but all of them despise existence and seek to reduce everything to nothing. Dark Knights and Brides of Eratus, they were my favourite minions. They were very, very useful. A Banshee draws her strength from one simple emotion: fear. In truth, a Banshee feels many times the fear felt by her victims. Had she the ability, she would run away from each battle in blind terror, but necromancers had long since employed additional bindings to keep that from happening. She is supremely focused on stress. Pretty much every single one of her attacks does something to do with stressing your opponents. So it's quite, she's quite good in like sort of the back 2 rows.
You have the honor of receiving my personal touch.
Thank you, but no. Thank you, but no. You keep your touches to yourself. She's very good at the back because she will support the group with buffs and she'll deal stress damage. And now, the Wraith. Despite the seeming simplicity of this minion, its summoning has been prohibited by the Necromancers Guild since the dawn of history. Not even Eratus remembers the reason for this decree, but there are many dark rumours surrounding this particular summoning. It is said that the very first Necromancer created this minion as a vessel for his rebirth, or that the soul that answers the Necromancer's call comes not from the afterlife, but from another, much more alien place. Nobody seemed to have had the courage to put these theories to the test, or maybe those that did never survived the process. Still, the guild has been nothing but ruins for millennia. It is now up to Eratus to decide what to do with this knowledge. Again, another one that's quite good in the back 2 rows. I think fairly focused on stress as well. Oh, stress and magic, this one. Curse is stress over time, and then there's a little bit of buffage. And he's got a trap available. That's quite useful. Although that's traps. Oh, that's kind of a buff. That's mostly a buff. The Mummy. Mummy's alive. A little boy named Presley found a secret out this year that he was once a pharaoh and Egyptians ruled the world. You're going to try and do the whole thing? No. I panicked partway through because I don't think I remember it all. But that was the theme song for Mummy's Alive. It was a fucking great cartoon. I absolutely loved Mummy's Alive. It was proper hardcore 90s. A bit of 90s cheese, but I loved it all the same. A mummy is, at its core, a vessel for thousands of dark curses crammed together into one undead body. For this purpose, all unnecessary organs need to be removed to make space, and the body bandaged generously to keep it all from leaking out. Quite a dangerous minion, since even a slight touch can lead to several years of bad luck, which is why stories of what happened to the originator of this design are still passed around as cautionary tales among necromancers. I didn't use much in the way of a mummy, so it looks mostly Clinging Wraps is sort of rear 2, Impending Horrors all 4, Absorb Curses, he kind of starts having to shift around, I suppose, so you're absorbing the curses, then impending the horror to move back and forth. So he might be quite good in those 2 slots so that he can move back and forth, but as I say, truth be told, I didn't really use much of the mummy. I don't remember him being all that good. The Lich. Yeah.
Only I know how to unlock the true potential of necromancy.
Well, funny you should say that. I know that as well. And I'm kind of in the middle of explaining, so if you wouldn't mind shutting up there. A powerful magical minion, but not really a true Lich. Rather, these are pseudo-Liches that borrow some of the designs made by necromancers of old. Most notably, these minions do not actually hold the soul of a necromancer. Instead, they serve as carriers for devastating spells that often sow destruction on both allies and enemies alike. They have, however, been known to take on the mannerisms of their creator, which can be so convincing that other undead tend to obey them. The Lich And yes, I will forever call them a lich, because I insist on having the H in there somewhere. All over the place, I'll grant you, but it's in there somewhere. These guys I found quite effective, but at a very limited use of their arsenal, because I'll show you why in a moment. This move, Bone Shards, really quite good. I know it says deals damage to a random enemy, and if you upgrade it that way, it's awful, or at least it's awful sounding, because I don't want to damage my own ally, thank you very much. But if you upgrade it this way, it ignores a ward, which means it will penetrate through any defense the enemy has, which is very good. But it's quite good. I know it's got a certain amount of randomness to it, although a lot of the time it didn't feel fully random when I was using it, because it was like, I'd like you to target this guy. Oh, you did? Oh, good. I'd like you to target this guy. Oh, you did? Oh, good. I'd like you to target this guy. You didn't? Who gives a shit? It's still damage. It is random, but also kind of you can target it. So, a bit weird, that one. Command the Undead. That one was something I didn't really use much of. Sacrifice? Fuck no. Kills an ally? Fuck no. I know these are meant to be sort of undead minions that you can throw away, but nonetheless, they are my undead minions, and I will not throw them away. So, fuck no. The Doxic or Toxic, either or, doesn't matter. That was rather good as well, because I was getting to the stage where there was a lot of enemies moving by themselves, so creating the Toxic Cloud allowed me to fuck them up, essentially. Rain of Fire, fuck no. It's not too bad, but it's got that punishment of all allies. It damages all allies, so most of the time it's fuck no. And then summoning a skeleton, that's only really useful if you lose one of your minions, or if you go into battle without a full team in the first place. But Bone Shards is still very, very good. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. I said I loved your voice. I don't need to hear it every few minutes. I suppose the game is essentially telling me to hurry the fuck up and play it, instead of fucking around in the menus.